Is your organization ready for true collaboration? Is everyone in your group a team player? Is your working environment collaborative? Collaboration is the power source of the 21st century, and it's climate neutral. Sounds impressive, right? Maybe even pompous or over the top. Truth be told, collaboration's only been fostered in most large organizations within the past couple of years. Prior to that, super developers, super analysts, super managers, and super executives were expected to deliver super outcomes. The focus was on individual talents. Collaboration shifts the focus to teamwork. Now, given the complexity of modern digital applications, business analysis has become a team effort. Working effectively in a team emphasizes the need for business analysts to acquire and hone their soft skills, also known as people skills or social skills. Your success depends on your ability to motivate a group over whom you have no authority to define the digital solutions of tomorrow. You need to acquire a new superpower, namely team building. Cultivating a collaborative environment is not easy. It requires a commitment to deliver all of the tools, training, and even a culture in which collaboration is rewarded. So, what can you do when you're in charge? Well, you can ensure that everyone shares the same goal. Let every participant know how their contributions add value to the whole. Openly share information. Also share and value constructive feedback that targets the actions, not the individuals. Allow participants to express their opinions, to take responsibility and get credit for their contributions. By the way, these are great steps for a collaborative environment within your organization, but they're also great guidelines for conducting any kind of collaborative conversation. If you're not in charge of a meeting or even your organization, you can submit suggestions to whoever is on how to create and maintain a work environment that is conducive to collaboration. A lot of people ask me about the difference between collaboration and cooperation. The terms are quite often used interchangeably, but there actually is a difference. The crux of the difference lies in the goals of each participant. I can cooperate with two or more people, each with his or her own individual goal. We agree that working together is best for each of us to achieve our individual goals. They get what they need, and I get what I need, even though our goals can be quite different. Collaboration, on the other hand, is a group of people working toward a common goal. That implies that before you can start collaborating, you need a well-expressed goal that everyone understands and works toward. Without a goal, a workshop is a colossal waste of time and effort. Even with a defined goal, workshops need someone who keeps the group focused on that goal. That role is commonly a facilitator. That makes sense if you consider that to facilitate means to make easier or help bring about. Whether the session is live or virtual, whether it's for waterfall requirements or Agile user stories, the facilitator's role is not to offer opinions on the content of the discussion. Their role is to draw out contributions from the participants. Facilitators are responsible for the process and the outcome. The contributors really own the content. Facilitators need significant skills to make this type of gathering successful. Facilitation, by the way, is another soft skill, but it focuses on how people participate in a process and on what the process delivers. Facilitated workshops are collaborative meetings. What the facilitator and participants contribute is very different. However, they're all working toward a common goal, namely to deliver high-quality requirements or user stories. In a less formal setting, such as a user story conversation or a backlog refinement meeting, the role of facilitator could be assigned to one person, quite often the product owner, product manager, or if you have it, the business analyst. Now, in this less formal setting, that person can still contribute ideas and opinions. Whether formal or informal, every form of productive meeting benefits from collaboration. That's true whether the facilitation is provided by the nominal leader of the discussion or any other participant. Interestingly, studies indicate that participants judge the effectivity of and their satisfaction with the outcomes of a meeting by the amount of active involvement they had. In other words, if you talk a lot, you're more likely to think the meeting experience was a good one. Well, guess who talks the most in meetings? The person in charge of the meeting. Now, if the reason for the meeting is to inform, to govern, or regulate, that's fine. That's the objective, so that's good, but it's not collaborative. When it comes to collaborative meetings and conversations, however, the one talking the most should be the contributors, not the leaders. Now, my 35 plus years experience in facilitating requirements meetings by any name have taught me that the secret to getting the best business needs is to explain clearly and simply what I want the group to do, then shut up and listen to their responses. Whether I'm conducting a one-on-one interview, leading a three amigo conversation, or facilitating a full-blown user story workshop, whether it's in person or virtual, my goal is to stimulate the conversation, keep it focused on the task at hand, and capture the essence of the ensuing discussion and decisions. I use three different terms: interviews, conversations, and workshops. What do those three things have in common? Well, all of them are meetings that offer opportunities for being exhilarating events of constructive collaboration. They also have the potential for being a colossal waste of time. So how can you increase those that are productive and eliminate or at least reduce the time wasters? To answer that, we first need to understand the difference between three modes of gatherings. According to Wikipedia, the source of all wisdom in today's world, an interview is a structured conversation where one participant asks questions and the other provides answers. A conversation is interactive communication between two or more people. And a workshop is a meeting in which groups apply methods for creative problem solving. Now, since all need collaboration, I use these three terms interchangeably. I also use the term collaborative gathering or collaborative meeting to refer to any of the three. Now notice that all three terms reference a multitude of people, as in two or more, interacting in some manner for some reason. So, if your meetings were musical gatherings, would they be worth attending? Would you sell any tickets? Bad meetings would sound like a bunch of unskilled musicians playing a cacophony of instruments, each striving to be louder than the others and not all of them playing the same tune. Of course, that kind of music might become popular over the years, so what do I know? A productive meeting would sound like a symphony played by a group of skilled musicians under the direction of a qualified conductor. Now, that analogy is not a stretch. For a meeting of any size to deliver exceptional results requires talented individuals working in concert. As the group size grows, the need arises for some member to have a unifying skill set that manages participation and ensures that each member contributes to blend the overall performance. That individual is best qualified to be the facilitator. The ever-increasing complexity of and dependence on information technology mandates an efficient cross-functional exchange of ideas to determine the features, functions, user stories, and requirements for a proposed digital solution. Now that we have that out of the way, let me address the challenge mentioned earlier, namely, how to increase the number of productive meetings while minimizing waste. Well, according to Steven Rogelberg in The Surprising Science of Meetings from 2018, there were over 11 million meetings per day in the United States alone. That number, by the way, has probably increased drastically as we learn to cope with the global pandemic. A work meeting is defined as a gathering of two or more employees for a purpose related to the functioning of an organization or a group. Well, if you're trying to define the requirements for an IT solution, I recommend adding to collaborate and to decide, because They are the most critical components and the most critical outcomes of any gathering that defines digital solutions. Now, we've talked for years about requirements meetings under a lot of names. Lean and Agile shifted the focus by substituting user story or feature for the word requirement and conversation for the word meeting. As a result, you're more likely to be involved in a Three Amigos or user story conversation than to attend a requirements meeting. You could also be invited to a requirements conversation, a requirements workshop, user story workshop, a user story conversation, Three Amigo conversation, feature storming session, replenishment meeting, or any combination of similar terms. To misquote Shakespeare, a meeting by any other name needs collaboration to succeed. Now, whatever your organization calls it, you need two or more people conversing, collaborating, and deciding on the business needs that a proposed initiative should meet. The costs associated with making bad decisions is enormous. The business value of making the right choices is immeasurable. Collaboration ensures that your business needs are correctly identified and captured, communicated to the builders and buyers of the solutions, adapted to changing business and technology innovations, implemented correctly, and confirmed to deliver the promised business value. The takeaway from the surprising science of meetings is that we don't need fewer meetings. What we need to do is eliminate meetings that waste time and increase the number of productive meetings. Informal requirements interviews are convenient and productive because they take advantage of opportunities to discover requirements. In addition, the contributor is generally at ease because they're in their natural setting. The informal nature of this type of a conversation allows the contributor to share emotions and personal observations. However, the ad hoc and informal nature creates its own problems. You might be prepared, but what about them? They have no time to prepare their answers. They may even feel ambushed, which can make their responses defensive. In addition, the lack of structure in an informal interview can lead to sloppy thinking on both sides. Now, scheduled, small group conversations, including, by the way, those pesky one-on-one interviews, need a certain degree of planning, scheduling, and structuring. Somebody has to manage the conversation. These meetings often involve one or more domain experts, with the ITBA guiding the discussion. For example, Agile and Lean approaches recommend that developers have a conversation with the author of a user story immediately before they start coding. To foster and maintain the collaborative nature of this conversation, the product owner and/or a ITBA are often involved as facilitator. This type of conversation is typically driven by direct questions, responses, and clarifying questions. Anytime a user, an analyst, and a developer or tester meet to discuss a user story, you have a Three Amigo conversation. Now, a lot of organizations stick to that terminology, even if the group size exceeds the magic number 3. We've worked with organizations where up to 7 people attended a Three Amigos conversation. Your primary goal, as the one needing other people's input, is to draw them out. That is elicitation at its simplest. You need an initial set of questions to kickstart the conversation. To put the domain experts at ease, I recommend scheduling an interview on their home turf. People generally feel in control in their own workspace. They need to provide information so you can determine what features, functions, and behaviors your proposed IT solution would have in order to meet their needs. For that, they may need access to the existing system to give you the information you need. Having the ability to demonstrate problems and ideas makes the conversation less abstract and a whole lot easier to understand. Although there are similarities among collaborative conversations of any kind, duration matters. As the duration increases, you, as the person planning and leading the conversation, need to supercharge your techniques and rely more heavily on your personality traits and attitudes. This is also true as the number of participants increases, by the way. Whereas shorter and smaller meetings might not need an official facilitator and can adjust to situations on the fly, workshops are planned, scheduled, and formal working sessions. Their success relies heavily on the facilitator's experience and expertise. A reasonable number of participants for a working group is somewhere between 7 and 16. However, groups larger than 10 can stress inexperienced leaders. The larger the group of participants, the more demands on the qualifications of the facilitators. Workshops have been around for a long time under a variety of names and, of course, associated acronyms, things like the JAD, JRP, JAR, and so on. In a lean or agile environment, these might be user story workshops, replenishment meetings, retrospectives, etc. Regardless of what you call them, these types of workshops define the user stories, features, functions, and/or requirements for a potential or proposed business solution, typically including a software component. Since digital solutions affect many groups of people within an organization, these workshops give all stakeholders an opportunity to express their individual needs and desires. The main purpose of these workshops is to shorten the time needed to create and achieve consensus within a cross-functional group of business needs that define the proposed digital solution. To determine if a workshop is the appropriate choice for your project, consider the relative strengths and challenges. Workshops leverage group dynamics, allowing issues to be addressed immediately when all involved parties hear what the others say. Workshops generate a tremendous quantity of high-quality business needs in a very compressed time frame. And the attendees own the outcome because they created it. On the other hand, getting all necessary stakeholders to attend a multi-day workshop can be impossible in today's multitasking business environments. The only remedy for scheduling conflict is to limit workshops to mission-critical projects with the highest priority for the critical attendees. Now, as the one responsible for discovering business needs, you need to pick the elicitation approach based on the people you need to interview and the information you need from them. Your approach must consider their corporate cultures, personalities, priorities, and a whole lot more. With experience, you'll discover pros and cons I didn't mention. I recommend you keep a list and use it to evaluate which approach works best for you personally and for your organization. Regardless of which approach you choose, a couple of tips. Never invite people who have nothing to contribute to the topic. Idle spectators distract, so make sure that everyone you invite can contribute. Minimize the duration of the meeting. I recommend 1 to 2 days for Agile, maybe up to 3 days for Waterfall. Limit the size of the group to 12. If you need more contributors, think about splitting the group into subgroups of appropriate size. In the end, well-planned and well-executed workshops are the epitome of collaborative efforts.